Holyoke. We want to thank Katie Stebbins for hosting us here, the lovely Computing Center. And we also want to thank our sponsors, the Northampton Area Young Professionals, the Young Professionals Society of Greater Springfield, Monson, Event Meetings and Planning, and of course the Creative Strategy Agency. So 5 is just a really informal lunchtime event, if you haven't been here before, to get really awesome women and some guys together. I know you're right. Together to just talk about entrepreneurship and innovation and tell stories and share kind of what it's like, you know, launching a business. It's really, really scary. There's a lot of roller coaster rides, but it's also really, really awesome too. So we have 5 fabulous speakers that are going to join us. Again, if you've never been here before, they each get 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, I sound my handy dandy buzzer. They go down, the next one comes up. The point is to get you guys in and out in an hour so that you can get back to your jobs and to your life. And I also know that it's Friday. So we hope you enjoy yourselves, and we're going to kick it off. I'm just going to read some information to let you know who our lovely 5 speakers are, what they're about and what they're doing, and why they're here today. So Katie Stebbins is an economic development and urban planning consultant, currently serving as the project manager for the Holyoke Innovation District on behalf of Mass Tech Collaborative. Katie loves the challenges and rewards of revitalizing gateway cities and has been serving Springfield, Mass in this capacity for over 10 years. Katie also publishes BYOFamily.com, a parent-friendly digital community guide currently being piloted in Springfield. Katie is an entrepreneur, urban hippie, homeschool mom, and recently played on Springfield's roller derby team. That's awesome. Hunter Golden, our one dude on the 5 fab. Hunter is the general manager of the Valley Blue Sox, a New England collegiate baseball league. He also is the managing editor of ESPN Sweet Spot Network's Firebrand of the American League blog, where he oversees content and external affairs. He's also the longtime owner of Bright Stuff Copywriting, where he works with such clients as Citi, founder of the Home Shopping Network Bob Sarcosta, and Children's Friends and Family Services. Hunter resides in Longmeadow with his wife and 2 lovely daughters. Nancy Urbschat is a big picture person, a strategic thinker. She leads brands discoveries, digs deep, and develops authentic positioning in supporting messaging platforms and narrative. She cares deeply on doing the right thing, whether it's for the agency's clients, the agency's employees, or the community. She's counted as one of Springfield's champions. Nancy received her MBA with an emphasis in marketing from the Ohio State University. Crystal Center Brown, MS, is the author of 4 books, But You Have Such a Pretty Face, Double Dutch, Gabby Saturday, and The Rhythm in Blue, which is currently being made into a feature film, which is awesome. She has been featured in Essence Magazine and Redbook Magazine for her side hustle as a Justice of the Peace. She has worked as a senior representative for the American Cancer Society for the past 13 years. She holds a master's in nonprofit management and philanthropy and lives in Chicopee with her husband and son. Jill Monson is the Chief Inspiration Officer of Inspired Marketing, a full-service marketing and event planning agency. She has worked for some of the most well-known organizations in the Pioneer Valley area, including Mix 93.1, WHYN AM News Talk 560, and Rock 102. Jill has served on the board of YPS, the WYCA, and as an ambassador for the ACCGS. Jill is a proud recipient of the 2010 40 Under 40 Award by Mrs. West and Top 25 Women to Watch in Event Planning by Western Mass Women's Magazine. Jill and her wife Jen live in Springfield with their rescue pets, Jack and Max. So without further ado, we're going to kick off 5 with Katie Stebbins, our lovely host.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you everybody for being here. I don't know what to do with the podium, to be honest. So just stand in front of it, should I stand behind it? We can actually pull it out of the way.
I say pull it out of the way. I put the table there so you could sit on it. Way more casual.
Usually for events here, I'm usually here hosting events and I'm speaking at it, so I will go like this. Okay. So, thank you. I am Katie Stebbins, and I want to welcome everyone. I'm sort of the hostess here. I want to welcome everybody to the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center. This is the cloud-based research computing facility for MIT, Harvard, Boston University, Northeastern, and University of Massachusetts. You are also in the Holyoke Innovation District, and I will talk a little bit about that today. I want to talk about 3 things in 10 minutes. It's kind of hard to do, but I'm going to try it. Instead of talking about me as an entrepreneur today, I really want to give a context for the Holyoke Innovation District, because all of us as creative, entrepreneurial, and innovative people should understand what this place is and how it can serve all of us and how it's here for you. Okay, I talked about the Innovation District. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own journey, and then close with some thoughts on entrepreneurial thinking versus being an entrepreneur. Okay. So in the fall of 2012, Governor Deval Patrick came here and he cut the ribbon on this amazing building, and he said to all of us, Suzanne, you might have been here, said, now what are you guys going to do with it? Well, we were way ahead of him. Years before that, a group of economic development leaders, local, regional, and state, had formed an economic development innovation plan for Holyoke around how to leverage this building to do innovative economic development. It will be a model not only for gateway cities and communities like Holyoke, but for the rest of the region, and the state, and the country. Okay? So what happened was, in January of 2012, 13 different organizations, all the way from the governor's office down to the mayor's office in Holyoke, and a lot of people in between, got together at their highest levels of leadership. So the president, the executive director, the people who could make decisions in the moment. 13 of them had this collaborative. They call themselves the Kitchen Cabinet. And every month, once a month, for the past 2 years, they have met in this room, since this room was available. Before that, it was at PVPC. And they talk about collaboratively how they can implement innovative economic development in Holyoke and in the region and in the state. It has become this wonderful experiment in how to create transparency into government and economic development to revitalize a community. So some of the examples of what we do, just to give you a sense of this. At the research side, we're here in the computing center. Research is happening in this building that has impact around the world. The research that MIT is doing, and Harvard, and all of the universities. They also do some partnering locally. We've had Holyoke Gas and Electric partner with them to do some really amazing work. ISO New England has been here. We have nonprofits like Girls Inc. and Suzanne Parker's here. We have the Holyoke Public Schools. Different partners, both local, regional, and statewide, come and partner with the institutions that are a part of the center to create innovation and research and new information for the world to use. At a local level, we're in Holyoke. We have all these buildings, all this mill space, awesome mill space, which is indicative of all gateway cities across Massachusetts, New England, and around the country, right? And so one of the innovations was, well, we've got all these people around a table. How do we unlock these properties in new ways that we haven't thought of before? And because we have all those minds around the table, what are they learning about how to do this in Holyoke that they can transfer to their gateway cities? And what are they doing around the country and in other gateway cities that we could pilot here in Holyoke? So we're doing this around commuter rail, we're doing this around brownfield revitalization. We're doing this around market studies of buildings that are privately owned, doing things that people haven't done before, but we're hoping are going to unlock some of the challenges of gateway cities. We're also doing it on the programmatic side. We're sort of a test bed and a fun playground for creative economy. For STEM education, again, I look at Suzanne Parker, Girls Inc. is such a great part of the story of what we're doing. But again, the atmosphere we've created in Holyoke and the partners we have around the table, all of those people at one time allow you to introduce an idea and say, how could we all collectively pull this off? It streamlines the process so fast. They wanted us to be involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem on a statewide level. We were able to plug into that very quickly, give technical assistance to the manufacturing center, to the IT sector, because we're all here collectively very quickly, STEM education. Our latest project is we are collectively embarking on an entrepreneurship program called Spark, funded by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. And it is around entrepreneurship for all, democratizing the idea that everybody can be an entrepreneur, everybody can be innovative, and it's not just reserved for the extremely well-educated and the tech sector. And so we are going to be addressing the poverty of a city like Holyoke through entrepreneurism. And so this is an exciting undertaking we're working on. You'll be hearing more about this during the course of the year. We're currently looking at building job descriptions and putting those pieces together. So that's the Innovation District. It's a test bed. And it's a really cool place, and I encourage you to find out more about it at innovateholyoke.com. I happen to be the lucky quarterback that gets to manage all of it together, and it's just the dream job of a lifetime. So dream job of a lifetime. So for 10 years, I served working in Springfield City Hall as a planning and economic development person. Working in cities as a city planner is a lot like being an entrepreneur, because there's all these insurmountable challenges in front of you. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're like, look at all these freaking amazing opportunities. This place is amazing. I came here from Boulder, Colorado to pursue my education and be here in the Pioneer Valley. And I didn't look back to Boulder because I came here and I saw opportunity everywhere and I got so excited. Eventually my wings got a little bit too big to be in City Hall because I wanted to attack problems that were simply just bigger than what I could attack within the city government. And so I hung my shingle, I cashed out my retirement, and I became a consultant. But what I found was, as many of you might be able to relate to, I was doing a lot of stuff for free. Everyone said, can I pick your brain? Can you come meet with me for lunch? Can we do this? For 2 years, I did free lunches, free consulting, giving it away. And what I found was, people wanted my entrepreneurial thinking for free, and what they wanted me to do was validate theirs. So you have someone in the ranks of an organization, probably not at the top, somewhere in the middle, who had these great ideas, and they didn't feel heard. And they say, can we have lunch so I can talk to you about this? And you can really just basically validate what it is I'm trying to do in my organization and help me get the tools to go back and tell my boss, this is what we want to do. Sometimes it is the boss who's called me and said, my staff's talking about this, and I have some inkling about this, and I just don't get this stuff. Can you just lend some creative information here? But after one of these one day, I sat in my car and I said, oh my God, Katie, you were giving all this away for free. You have a 15-year career, you're a professional, you've done all this stuff, and you're just giving it away. You are devaluing yourself. So I finally started to say, all right, I'm going to charge for this. Did a few different things. In 2011, a job came my way, and some of you who are entrepreneurs will, anyone of you will associate this. Did you ever have a project come your way that you just didn't think you were ready for? Your gut was like, oh God, this looks really good, but I'm gonna throw up if I say yes. Like, this is just way too much, way too big, and you freak out. And even the anxiety of thinking about it now, I still want to throw up, right? So in 2011, I accepted the job of producing Idea Mill, which was a conference in Holyoke around tech innovation. I wasn't prepared for it, I was not an event planner, and I was in no way, shape, or form involved in the 20-something Cambridge tech crowd, but I did it. I pulled it off, and it led to Mass Technology Collaborative taking an interest in me and offering me the position of quarterbacking the Holyoke Innovation District. My lesson from that is that sometimes, even though you think you're going to throw up on it, you got to take a risk. You've got to move forward, you've got to value yourself, and you've got to trust what your gut is saying. I want to close with saying, in this entrepreneurial space that we exist in, I hear a lot of people saying, you can't talk, entrepreneurism is just the new buzzword. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and not everyone can be an entrepreneur because those are people who see opportunity in a market and they assume the risk to take that market, and that is a high risk proposition, and the majority of them are going to fail at it. So how dare you set up people that think they can do it? I want to flip that a bit, which is people who can put themselves as entrepreneurial thinkers exist everywhere. And the more in your organizations or your life or your businesses or your worlds, you can encourage people not to look at a problem and be stuck on it, but look at it as an opportunity to address. You are encouraging people to be in a framework of entrepreneurial thinking. And that is not something we should discourage, and it's not something that we should tell people they can't do. Here in Holyoke, we are focused on creating an entire economy's framework around encouraging anybody to see a problem and see themselves engaged in how they can be a part of the solution, which is a very exciting proposition indeed. So I just want to leave you guys today with my closing thoughts on being an entrepreneur and being in an innovation space, which is take a risk, do things sometimes that feel scary, promote entrepreneurial thinking within your frameworks, and have an enormous amount of fun doing it in the process. Thank you.
And with a minute to spare. That was awesome. Next up, Hunter Golden.
I love podiums. I like them. I have to always prepare. You guys will have to excuse me a little bit, especially my appearance. It's actually something I'm going to talk about a little bit today. We've got a lot of rain going on out there, so I'm going to have to jump out right after this and go slosh around in the mud and see if I have to cancel a baseball game today. So, it's ironic I'm talking about that because it's a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today. In life, we're all about physical appearances and conventions, doing the things the way they've always been done. And in baseball especially, that's something that would seem to make perfect sense, right? Every scout is out there looking for that 6'3", 215-pound stallion, Silky Sullivan, who has a great body and a great arm and can hit baseballs 400 feet. Problem is with that is that doesn't always translate to success. Imagine being in the seats that you guys sit in, with the decisions that you have to make. And you're sitting there with your CEO or with your management team, and you're doing a write-up on a company, and you're sitting there, and your analysis is, well, the CEO, or this guy that we're going to hire, he seems smart, he's got a good body on him, I think we should go with this guy. It seems ridiculous, right? Well, I get to deal with that every day. And I got a great stat from Malcolm Gladwell, who said that 3.8% of adult males are 6'2". Yet 30% of all Fortune 500 CEOs are taller than 6'2". So maybe it's not just the baseball scouts that have this bias, and maybe it's out there in a much more broader scope than the sports world, where it would seem to maybe have some sort of practical application. As entrepreneurs, we have to be conscious that there are these biases out there that infect the mind when we're making intuitive judgments, value judgments, especially when it comes to other people. We overvalue handsome people. We overvalue men. We overvalue women. We overvalue tall people. When people ask me what I do for a living, I rarely respond with, well, I work in baseball. My job literally is to judge other people. And as business owners and as leaders and as entrepreneurs, that kind of is our job when you strip it all away. We need to stop saying that it's a bad thing to judge, but rather focus on how we judge other people. We need to judge bottom lines, judge performance, and not just our employees, but ourselves as well. We judge our vendors, each other's trustworthiness, and at the core of what we do, it's formulating opinions of other people and placing a value on what they do, and figuring out where it fits into the broad scope of what it is we're trying to accomplish. You know, a little bit about me, I was always a baseball guy. I came from a baseball family. My uncle won a World Series with the Pirates in 1971. You come to our Thanksgiving or Christmas gatherings, you better come prepared to talk baseball. Just ask my wife, it drives her nuts. You got to come with stats and scouting reports, and we love to talk about the game. And because my family played it, and we're so passionate about it, it's a real big thing with us. But to be honest with you, it's not that about baseball that makes me love the game so much. What makes me love baseball so much is that the game projects the rest of the world that we live in. And it's not just what the world is about as much as how we view each other in that world. And one awesome thing about baseball is that it makes talking about everything that's difficult to talk about in this world a little bit easier. You want to talk about race? That's easy. You want to talk about women in sports? Serve up a helping of Dottie Hinson and Effa Manley. You want to talk about gambling, drinking, economics. If you ever want to get to the heart of what someone's real view of the world is, just ask them about baseball and then listen. It was through that love of the game and how it brings our lives into clearer focus that I fell in love with a guy named Bill James on his baseball abstracts. Bill James was an MIT graduate in the early 1970s, and after he got out of college, he went to work at a pork and beans canning factory, and to kill time, he would play around with baseball statistics, and eventually came out with these baseball abstracts and found that a lot of the thinking that we had in baseball and how we value players was wrong. When Michael Lewis's Moneyball, which was based off a novel Moneyball, hit in 2002, which was largely based off of Bill James's thinking, when that hit, it was like a nuclear bomb in the baseball world. For the first time ever, people were using real data to critically evaluate how things happen on a diamond and how they judge the players who played on it. But don't kid yourself, Moneyball wasn't really about baseball. I'd say what it was about was that it happened to be a baseball team that was applying data and statistics to find out what their players and people were really worth. But the fact is that it really could have been anybody that they were talking about. It was a book about us and how we wed ourselves to conventional thinking and make poor decisions about each other, and in turn do more to hurt ourselves than help ourselves. There can't be any corporation in America or any industry in the country that employees are as scrutinized as baseball players are. They do what they do in front of millions of people every night, many of whom just assume that they're experts in terms of evaluating baseball players. They have statistics, usually the wrong statistics, but nevertheless they attach stats to every move that players make on a baseball field. And they've been doing the same thing for over 150 years. If that employee can be so badly misvalued by so many people at once that you can build a juggernaut out of the supposed rejects and defective parts of that profession, then who can't be misvalued? Moneyball is about how people get misvalued, and then in turn, warped value systems encourage warped behavior in people, but primarily about people being misvalued and how in a free market, when what market could be freer than professional athletes, how a free market could screw up the valuation of people that bad. Moneyball wasn't a prescription for how baseball players to succeed as much as it was for someone who was evaluating other people should go about doing it. I think it resonated with people because folks in general feel underappraised. Who here actually feels like they're valued at what they're truly worth? Exactly. It's your job, and your business depends on it, to identify those talented people and use them in ways to boost your business. Like Bill James said one time, talent lies around us in gigantic unused heaps. The fact is, you'll rarely meet people that were an entire Swiss Army knife, but you'll almost assuredly meet people, you'll meet a toothpick, a tweezer, a big knife, a little knife, and most importantly, a bottle opener. Know how to distribute the talent around you and how to use it to its optimum potential, and stop dwelling on what they can't do. Instead, put them in positions where their strengths shine and they can succeed. Evaluate that talent for what they are and not what you wish they were. That's point number one. Point number two would be to stop thinking about right and wrong and start thinking about what's in front of you. Oftentimes, and this is just human nature, once you've made up your mind about something or particular someone else, you tend to seek out only those facts that reinforce what you've already decided to believe. If there's a fact that comes to life that comes up later on that goes against what we believe, we tend to disregard it. Try to be as open-minded as possible. Even after we form an opinion about something, we need to be as open-minded about the things. We need to be open-minded about things, be willing to change our minds, and not be afraid of the backlash that comes along with changing your mind. Take the backlash and turn it into liberation. And in closing, I guess my advice would be this, and there's an enormous power in doing what you really care about. The outside world is going to try to distract you from what you really care about. It's going to send you a lot of false signals about your value and what you should really be doing. Do your best to ignore those signals and don't treat those as commands. It sounds in a trite way, I guess what I would say is follow your passion. If you're lucky enough to have it, passion is unbelievably powerful. Thank you.
Next up, Nancy Urbschat.
I too like a podium. Getting older and I need something to lean on and look you straight in the eye and talk to you. I thought of a title for this presentation, and mine is The Making of an Entrepreneur, and it's all about me. Before I start my little story of my road to entrepreneurship, I thought I would ask a couple of questions. I like to know something about my audience before I start talking. I might have to change what I was going to say. So how many people in the room consider themselves entrepreneurs? Show of hands. Okay. How many of you believe that entrepreneurs are born, made? Okay. 50-50? Okay. Thank you. Because, yes. How many of you have acted on your entrepreneurial instinct and have started a business? Okay. How many of you have had to meet a payroll? Okay.
Some weeks.
And if you've started a business or you bought a business, how many of you have ever been told, you're so lucky? You're so lucky. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm gonna start with my first exposure to entrepreneurship. I was a student at the Ohio State University in a lockstep 2-year program that was very corporate. I have no idea how I ended up there, other than the fact that my father-in-law told me that he thought I would be good in business. And there's a recurring theme in my life. If somebody tells me that they think I might be good at something, or I'm sort of, giggleless at the moment, and somebody says something, then I say, oh yeah, I could probably do that. And so he told me I would be good in business, and so I'm in this program and I'm taking corporate finance and management accounting and statistics and all this stuff. And the interesting thing is that I believe I was a socialist at the time. I had absolutely, I was the furthest thing from a capitalist. And so we had a prescribed 2-year set curriculum with the same 100 people. We had like two electives. So one of my electives was a course on entrepreneurship, and it was taught by this guy who was a chaired professor, and he didn't have a PhD. He, in fact, had traveled all over the world studying entrepreneurs. And he was a great storyteller, and one of the stories that he told was about this guy who I think you could consider a serial entrepreneur. He was in Sri Lanka, and this guy's business had just burned to the ground. And so he decided that he was going to start another business, and that business was a shoemaking business. He was 90 years old at the time. So once you're an entrepreneur, it's very difficult not to be an entrepreneur. I came late to becoming an entrepreneur. After graduate school, we moved here. I did a little consulting gig, and then I got hired at a very large financial services institution in Springfield. And I was there for 2 months. I was a market research analyst, and every day I had a stomach ache. And I decided that probably wasn't the way you were supposed to live your life, having a stomach ache every day. And so I went into my boss and I said, this really isn't working out. And he said, and he had a chair and a sofa and a plant and a desk. So he was a second level VP. I, on the other hand, had a divider, one divider, not sides, just front. And he said, I think we can make this work. And I said, no, I don't think we can. And so that day I quit. And one of the things, we were paid on the first day of the month. And it was the 14th day of the month. We were paid for the whole month on the first. So I had to pay to leave. And so as I'm walking across the parking lot, I'm thinking to myself, who the hell is going to want to hire you? You had this great job, you last 2 months, you walk out on a given day, you pay to leave. I mean, who's going to want to hire you? Well, what I happened to, there was a serendipitous opportunity to meet this woman who had just started a marketing firm. She was very charismatic. We had a conversation. She said, I'm going to give you some leads. So I met with all these people, and great meetings, and I reported back to her that how grateful I was, because we were new to the area. We just moved here, and we got to talking, and she said, how would you like to rep my business? And I said, not really. And so I said, well, I'm driving back after this meeting with her, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what else are you doing? And so I called her on the phone, and I said, I'll give it a try. So that was 29 years ago. The person that I met with was Leslie Lawrence, who had started this marketing firm, and I joined her as first a consultant, then an employee, then a partner. And then when she retired in 2004, I bought the business from her. Now, I'm still not an entrepreneur yet. Okay. I took over the business in, January 1st of 2005. And I would have to say that for the first 5 or 6 years of these last 10 years, I was operating by the same playbook. And so it was still very much what I had done in the past. And then I went to this conference. I was part of the Women Presidents Organization, which I highly recommend to women who are leading businesses for peer interaction and a lot of really great advice and a lot of great opportunity. Anyway, we went to the Edward Lowe Foundation has this camp in southwestern Michigan. And basically, you go for a couple days, and you concentrate on your business, a luxury that most small businesses or entrepreneurs never have. That's just a luxury they seldom have. So anyway, at this conference, I started thinking about myself as an entrepreneur. And what I realized was that I had some serious work I needed to do on the business. And I had to work on the business rather than in the business. And people say that a lot, but actually being able to do that is also one of those luxuries that you seldom have the opportunity to pursue. Long story short, redefined what we were doing, elevated some people within the company, our small company. Remember, this is a small company, and really found that with those two people who I had increased their responsibility and recognized the value that they bring to the business, we have been able to reposition ourselves. And actually, in the midst of, I've left out one whole thing that I wanted to talk about. And that is, in the midst of this discovery, there's something called the Great Recession. And for the Great Recession, I don't know about you if you felt this way, but the roller coaster ride, or the, whatever this is called, the frequency and the amplitude or amplitude, whatever it is. One of the things that happened during the recession was that it made me realize how deeply I cared about this thing. How I would do anything to keep this business growing, thriving, surviving. And I think that's part of the, I think that's part of what, I think that's part of the definition of entrepreneurship, is that thing that you've created is this living, breathing, wonderful opportunity that you have a chance every single day to make better, to nurture, to move in a different direction, to do whatever you need to do in order to keep it going. And I will close with, I don't remember what I'm closing with. I've gone off script so far, I can't stand it. You know, one of the things that I hope that you take away from this presentation is that it's not a straight line. There's not, opportunity doesn't always present itself in the way that you think it's going to. Repping Leslie's business was the furthest thing from my mind. I think that entrepreneurs are lucky. I think they have the opportunity to create this thing that they love to do, that they can have great satisfaction in the way they live their life because they have this thing that they've created. And with that, I'll be done. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Sutter Brown.
I'm also going to use the podium because it looks official. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Everybody's awake and alive and happy. That lunch was really good.
Yeah.
Even though there was no bread, and I'm used to bread, it was good because I'm not like this now. So maybe I should not have bread for lunch. Who arranged it, Diane?
Magic spoon. Magic spoon, yeah.
Magic spoon was very good. Okay, so I am, in my other life, I am a writer and a performer. I have written 5 books, a children's book, a novel, a poetry book, and another novel that's coming out in the fall. And so I wanted to talk just a little bit about how I moved one of my books from just being on my phone to being in a notebook, to being on the computer, to being an actual book, to being a movie. So it was kind of like this little process. So 5 years ago today, I actually started a very small blog that I started writing on every day. I participated in the fall of 2008 in something called National Novel Writing Month. Anybody ever heard of that? Yeah. Anybody ever done it before? I did it one time. You have to write 50 words in 30 days. So this is actually how this book came about. I wrote it in 30 days. At the end of 30 days, it wasn't a very good book, because 30 days is not long enough, I think, to write a book. But I at least had my main characters. I was able to actually kind of have an idea of what I wanted in the book, and so I wrote it, put it on my computer, and it just sat there for a couple of years. 2 years later, I don't know if anyone knows Keyshawn Dodds. He's an author too in Springfield. We were at the Harlem Book Fair, and he asked me what projects I have coming up. I said, well, actually, I have a novel on my computer that I just haven't really looked at in a while. And he said, send it to me. I have an editor that could look at it for you. So I'm like, okay. So I sent it to him, and within a month, it was being edited. So it started, the ball started rolling. So I self-published it in 2012 in January, and through Amazon, and started putting it out on Kindle, and it was on Nook and all these other places. And then within a couple of months, my phone starts ringing from people that were interested in either purchasing the story or buying the story for a movie. So of course I thought it was a joke. I'm like, no one wants to buy this story as a movie. But I met with the woman, actually, she's from New York, and she came all the way here. We met at Max's Tavern, and we sat and we talked about the book, and she paid me to use the book in the movie. But in addition to paying me to use this as the movie, which actually Katie talked about, doing something that makes you sick to your stomach. So she asked me if I could write the screenplay, which I'd never done before. I'm like, oh yeah, totally, yeah, I've written a screenplay before. And so I went online on a website, I can't pronounce it, but it's spelled CLTX. I don't know how you would pronounce that. You want to know how to pronounce that? Well, anyway. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So, but what's cool about the app is it's on your phone and it's also on the computer, so I was able to write from wherever I was. And within like 15 days, I had a screenplay. So the past 2 years, I've been just working on the movie itself. The movie will be out in September. The premiere will be in New York City. It's done. It was a 2-year process, but it was totally worth it. So I guess my message to you is, if you have something that you've been thinking about doing and you've been afraid to do it, just do it. Get it down on paper. I write every single day. How many of you have written a book before? Have you thought about writing a book before? I think everybody has a book inside of them. Like, if you're someone who is like an expert on a subject, like, and especially if you go out and you do speaking engagements, like, totally write a book about it. It doesn't have to be like anything really long. It could be like 40 pages. But you can put it out there to the world, and you can publish it overnight. You can publish it in 5. I could write a book right now and publish it on Amazon in 5 minutes. Like, that's how easy it is. So write every single day, and just believe in yourself. Like, I guess I mean, I grew up in a household that, how many of you actually like played dress up growing up? Or played like, I'm looking at the young man here. What'd you do for fun when you were growing up?
I'm sorry?
What'd you do for fun? Like did you play, did you make up plays? Oh, you read, okay. So that's the same. So many of us, I know I grew up like putting on plays for my family, dancing for my family. We would have a theater day, we would sell tickets. And then as you get older, you stop doing that. And I always encourage people to try to tap into that piece of you that you used to be when you were younger. Because when you were younger, you'd spend an entire day writing or reading or performing. And I think we get away from that, and that's why some of us aren't successful in the things we want to do, because that passion that was inside of us is gone. So I am online. You can find me online. If you ever have any questions about putting your book together, I can definitely help you do that. Even the publishing piece of it, I can help you with that as well. And I guess that's it. I felt like I was talking too fast, but all right.
Jill Brunson.
So I used to do plays when I was a kid, Crystal, but I had to be every character because nobody would play with me because I was too bossy. Too bossy, I swear to God. I would do this. I would be over here, and then I would like run over here, and I'd be this character, and then yeah. So I'm gonna sit because it's more casual, and that's what I do. That's me. If anybody knows me. And when I teach, I sit, and I think that's really funny. I'm now a teacher, which is scary when somebody actually says, you have wisdom and you should share it, and you're like, oh crap, now I'm responsible when they talk about the next generation. Yeah. You know? So I'm going to give you the short version of how I got to where I am. because I think hopefully it resonates with some of you, because it wasn't, as Nancy said, a journey that went like this. It was a journey that kind of went, and then you end up somewhere and you're like, I don't know how I got here, but I love it. And to Katie's point, if you don't feel like you're going to throw up pretty often, you're doing something wrong. Because that's part of just being, I think, not an entrepreneur, but a human being. If you're challenging yourself, you should always have that, I'm going to take a jump. And Crystal, it really is all about saying, yeah, I've written a screenplay. Totally, yeah. So I skipped my senior year of high school, because at the time I was smart. And I say that because then I went into communications and just had to be cute and funny, and I got a degree. I went to college early, and I thought I was awesome and a big deal. And then I realized I didn't really want to be in college, and I really wanted to be a radio DJ. That was all I wanted to be. It was all I'd ever wanted to be. My grandfather was a radio DJ. He was I ran around the house playing interviewer with a brush. And so I got to college, hung around for a while, really mostly hung around at the radio station, to be honest. I spent a lot of money to sit in the radio station and DJ. And then I got an internship in radio, so I dropped out of college. And I thought college will be there when I'm ready. And I never kind of went back. And I got an amazing opportunity in radio, and I did everything I had ever dreamed of. I was a marketing director at Rock 102, I was the morning show at WMAS, I was in different cities all around. I loved it. I was living the dream. And the dream abruptly ended when I was fired. At 28 years old, and I had never been fired from anything. Like, even though my little library job when I was 14, me working in a library, can you imagine that? My one rule was I had to be quiet. Yeah, that's gonna last. But I never got fired, and now I'm 28 years old and I'm fired, and I'm a DJ. What do you do when you're a DJ? Like, what skills do you have? And I went, wait, I'm not just a DJ. So I allowed myself one day to have self-pity. And I ate more Ben & Jerry's that day. I ate a lot of pizza. And that was one day. And the next day I was like, all right, so now what? And then I looked at what I had for skills and figured out what I wanted to do. But that's not where the entrepreneurship began. It's kind of like Nancy, it doesn't sort of happen, you sort of stumble into it. So I reinvented myself, and I did some retail stuff and hated that, and I got into sales, and I hated it, but I was really good at it, and I made a ton of money. It was the first time, because if you know anything about radio, you don't make any money. So it was the first time in my life I had money. And my car was paid off, I was paying on my mortgage. Oh, that was one thing. When I got fired, I decided to go back to school. That was kind of like I'm gonna go back and finish my degree. So those 2 years, I worked a crap ton of part-time jobs, like babysitting and waitressing and all that stuff you don't wanna have to do. But I finished my degree by the time I hit 30 and saved $10,000 while I was doing it because I was too freaking busy to spend any of the money I was earning. So I bought a house. That was my big, ooh, I'm a single woman, hear me roar, I bought a house. And, but now what? So I went into sales, started making all this money, was loving the money, but didn't really like the sales part. I felt kind of unfulfilled. But what I found I was really liking was I was selling Valpak advertising, which is the blue envelope with the coupons, 50% off a pizza, right? So what I liked was when I went in to meet with business owners, they were all small businesses, and they had no idea about how to market and grow their business. And they were just getting all this bad information from people, and people were taking advantage of them, and I was able to go in and try in a way to sort of help them. But I was ultimately supposed to sell them my product, and sometimes I was like, it's not right for them, but I didn't know what to do because my job was to sell it to them, like everybody else's job was. So I stayed there, earned a lot of money, and then my mom got sick very unexpectedly and passed away. And I remember sitting at her funeral at the side of the cemetery, and it's the kind of morbid story, but it really was my transcending moment. And I'm sitting, and they have her here, and my family's here, and I'm looking around. I don't think I was listening to anything the poor pastor was saying, because I'm looking around the crowd at her friends and our family, and they're all obviously crying and reminiscing, I'm imagining in their head about her, and I'm thinking, what are they thinking about her? Like right now, this is their last moment with her. What are they thinking? And I thought, oh crap, she was 56. What if I'm only 56 years old and I'm done here? What are these people going to be, my friends, going to be thinking about me in this box? And I was like, oh shoot, I don't want it to be 50% off dry cleaning. And so I was like, uh-oh. So I went to my boss the next day and I quit. And he was like, what do you mean you're quitting? And for those of you guys who know Fred, what do you mean you're quitting? You're making great money, you're doing great. And I was like, yeah, I quit. And I went and I took a full-time marketing job with one of my clients. And it was great because I was doing something that I liked, I was getting a steady paycheck, but I told him when I signed up, I signed a 1-year contract with him because I said, this isn't what I want to do either. I like it, I'm having fun doing it, but there's something inside of me that I want to do and I can't figure it out yet. And so as I was working for him, I started designing my company, Inspired Marketing, and it's inspired by my mom. So that's where it comes from. The blue butterfly in the logo is on me, it's everywhere. That was because the day after she passed, a blue butterfly stayed with me. And so to me, that's my inspiration. And the reason I share my mom today and kind of lead up to that point is I've built the entire core values of my company around the core values of what I call the 8 lessons of life from my mom. And so those are the lessons I'm going to leave you with today, because I think that if you follow these, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, or you're in a cubicle, that these are great ways just to live. So, and 8 is important because 8's our lucky number. It's 8s and 28s. So the first rule was don't lie. Just don't lie. I mean, it's a simple one, but people do it all day long. And I think that if we go back to the core values that our parents taught us, it was don't lie. Respect others. My mom, I mean, it was respect your elders, Mr. and Mrs., and just respecting the person. If you walk into a hotel bathroom and there's a woman speaking to the women in the room, but sir, if there's a man in there, hopefully there's not a woman in the men's room, but maybe there is, but there's someone in the bathroom and they're cleaning the bathroom, that's their job, say hello, how you doing, thank you. Because those people are no less than or better than us. They have their job and they're doing it really, really well, hopefully, and making your life a little easier. So it's respecting whoever you stumble across. A side note, yesterday I saw a man who was clearly, his entire life was in a carriage, and he was trying to get, and your office is right down by, trying to get on the memorial side of the bridge, his cart up on the curb, and he had all the wheels up, but he couldn't get the last side of the cart up. And here I am, and I'm coming off of Route 5, and I'm going a little too fast, and I was like, and I threw my hazards on, and I went to leap out to help this man, and I don't say that to get like, oh, good job, Jill, but it was, I don't care that his entire life is in a carriage, and I have a house. His entire life was stuck on the curb, and he deserved to have help getting it up, so it's respecting others. Number 6 is be a team player. And for the women in the room, this is so big to me. And Megan and I talked about this when we got together. Megan and I basically have very similar businesses. And people are like, oh, she's your competition. And I was like, no, she's another woman entrepreneur. So how about we get together and talk and treat each other with respect and realize that maybe there's a project that's going to be so big one day, screenplay, that we go, and we call each other and say, let's work on this together. You know, I mean, there's opportunities. So be team players. My favorite is live with no regrets. Don't look back, look forward. Whatever you did, you can't change it, so just leave it, move forward, and love it. Always do what you say you are going to do. And if you can't, own up to it. Tell the person. Say, I screwed up, I can't get it done by this deadline, I will get it to you by tomorrow, whatever it is. Number 3 is laugh often. Laugh, because if you only get 56 years on this planet, you don't want to look back and think, I wish I had laughed more. Listen. God built us with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and as the radio DJ, this was a very hard lesson to learn, but if you can listen more than you talk, you will actually learn a lot and have a lot of fun and you laugh more. And last but not least, make your bed. Thank you, guys.
So thank you all for coming, each and every one of you for coming out today. 5 has been a lot of fun, and our next one will be in the fall and Springfield. So we'll have 5 Springfield, which I'm really excited about. We're going to take a break for the summer. Again, I just want to thank you, Katie, so much for hosting us here in Holyoke. Thank you guys for always coming. And also, I have to plug, right now, Lioness is in a really exciting and critical and roller coaster ride like we're all talking about. I'm leaving my day job July 31st. I'm going to try to really rock Lioness full time, and so it's crunch time, and we're doing a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. We're trying to raise 10 grand, which I think is totally doable in 60 days. So I just wanted to plug that. If you could share that, if you are generous and you are able to donate, we really appreciate it. Any amount is appreciated. And
Natasha, can you email us back out?
Yeah,
all the group that's here?
Absolutely,
so we can remember to do it?
Yeah, I'll send out another email plug. We're going to do a phone telethon at the end of the month. So you may get a call from me personally reminding you. But yeah, you can just go to Indiegogo.com, type in Lioness Magazine, and we'll come right up. So again, thank you everybody for participating. I really love these events. I get so excited. The point is for you to leave inspired. So I hope that you do. And we'll see you in the fall.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.